Alright, today we're going to be solving multi-step equations. Okay, multi-step means it's more than two steps. We've done one step, we've done two steps, now we're going to move on to multi-step. These are your 4 rules when solving multi-step equations. Rule number 1, distribute to eliminate the parentheses. Rule number 2, combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. Step 3, undo the addition or subtraction. Step 4, undo the multiplication or the division. Okay? As you can see, step 3 and step 4 are the same as when we had two-step equations. We've only added to remove the parentheses, and we're going to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign to get our coefficients together. Okay? So I'm going to do some of these examples. Okay? Example number 1, we have 2 parentheses x minus 1 close parentheses plus 4x equal to 10. Okay, that's your example to start with. Okay, first rule was to distribute to remove parentheses. I have parentheses here, so I'm going to distribute my 2 to the x and to the negative 1. Okay, out here I wrote to distribute because that was the first step. So when I do this, I get 2x minus 2, and then I just bring down my 4x, and it equals 10 part, and that didn't change. Step 2 is to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. So over here, I circled my 2x and my 4x because they were like terms. They had the same variable, so I'm going to combine them. 2 and 4 gives me 6. I bring down my negative 2, and the equal sign just stays the same. Step 3 is to undo addition or subtraction, just like in two-step equations. Here I have a subtraction, so I'm going to undo the subtraction, and the way I undo that is I add my 2 to both things, to the negative 2 on this side and to my 10 on the other side of the equal sign. So when I do this, I get 10 plus 2, which is equal to 12. I bring down my 6x, because that was what was left on this left-hand side of my equal sign. And what I'm left with is 6x equal to 12. My fourth step in that, on those rules, the fourth and last step was to undo the multiplication, and division. Okay? Here we have multiplication, so we need to undo that. The way we undo multiplication is to divide. So we're going to divide by 6 on both sides. When we do this, we're left with 1x. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Okay? So that's how we solve. I wrote all 4 steps down. I want you to do the same when you're doing your problems. So that reminds you that you do have 4 steps to make sure you hit. Alright, next example. Okay, you have negative 3x minus 7x plus 4 equal to negative 16. Step 1 says to distribute to remove the parentheses. As you can see on this left-hand side, we do not have parentheses. So we're going to skip step 1, we're going to go straight to step 2, which is to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. So if I look over here on the left-hand side, I have a negative 3x and I have a negative 7x. Negative 3x and negative 7x. I combine those together to get a negative 10x, bring down the plus 4, bring down my equal, bring down my negative 16. Step 3 is now going to be to undo the addition or the subtraction. For this problem I have addition, so I need to undo that. The way I undo that is subtract 4 on both sides. 4 minus 4 is 0. Negative 16 minus 4 is negative 20. Bring down my negative 10x. My last step, step 4, is to undo the multiplication or the division. So I'm going to undo the multiplication here. I have negative 10 times x because they're beside each other. I undo that by dividing by negative 10 on both sides of my equal sign. My negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1. So I have that 1x equal to 2 because negative 20 divided by negative 10 is a positive 2. That's showing all 3 steps here. We skipped step 1. But we still wrote each step that we had to do. Okay? We have one more. Okay, this one, yes, it has fractions, but we're not going to get scared about the fractions. You have 1/2 parentheses x minus 1 close parentheses plus 1/2 equal to 3. Step 1. Distribute to remove the parentheses. As you can see, we have parentheses. So we're going to distribute the number outside, which is 1/2. 1/2 to 1x, and then the 1/2 times negative 1. When I do that, 1/2 times x is just x over 2. That 1 times the x gives me 1x. I just put it over the 2 because that was my denominator. 1/2 times -1 is just -1/2. And bring down the plus 1/2, bring down my equal, bring down my 3. Step 2, combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. If I look on the left-hand side, I have a 1/2 and I have a -1/2 that I need to look at. They are the same thing. Okay, -1/2 plus a 1/2, they're constant terms, so we're going to add them together. When we do that, we're going to get 0. -1/2 plus 1/2 gives me 0, so these things go away. Okay, when it's equal to 0, I can cross them out. I bring down what is left. This x over 2 is left, so I'm going to bring it down, down my equal, bring down my 3. Okay, step 3 says to undo the addition or the subtraction, but as you can see, we've eliminated our constant term, so we don't have to do that step. We're going to skip step 4, which is to undo the multiplication or the division. In this problem, we have x divided by 2, because that's what we brought down. So we're going to undo the division, and we do that by multiplying by 2 on both sides. So we're going to do 2 times the x over 2, which cancels out my 2's, because it's left with 1x. And what I did on one side, I have to do to the other. So I do 3 times 2, which is 6. So x equals 6 for this example. And we still followed all the steps. We didn't have to do step 3. We did step 1, step 2, and then we skipped to step 4. So we skipped step 3 there. So make sure you're still showing the steps. Even if you're skipping some, you still need to at least go through 3 of them. Okay? So the next part is going to be your turn. You have 3 examples. Okay? Some of these have parentheses, some of these don't. They don't have fractions, so you don't need to worry about that. But you do need to show me step 1 is to distribute. Step 2 is to combine like terms. Step 3, you need to undo the addition or the subtraction. Undo the adding or the subtracting. Step 4, you need to undo the multiplication or division. Okay? I need to see these 4 steps written out just like I did in the examples. Okay, don't cut yourself short and try to do it in your head, because some of us are still making silly mistakes. Write it all out, that way you can go back and check your work. I need to see these 4 things written outside each step that you do. And if you don't have to do a step, just leave it off and skip to number 2, number 3, or number 4, and just keep going through those steps until you get x equal to some number. Okay? So go ahead and take care of that right now for me.